All right. The Sarantine Mosaic is one of my favorite reads in the past year. And I couldn't think of a way to talk about it until recently. I watched a video, actually, it was like a short clip from Brandon Sanderson on his thoughts on AI. And no matter what you think of Brandon Sanderson, I do think he had a really interesting point. And I promise you this gets back to the point of this. He mentioned that such an important part of art is the process of creating the art. And then I got to thinking, is there any book that conveys that idea? I thought to myself, I feel like I've read something that conveys that idea, that notion of the process being inherent to your growth, the artist's growth, not only the reader's growth. And I got to thinking, and I got to thinking, and I forgot about it. Completely forgot about it. And then come a couple months later, I thought about it again. Actually, I wasn't even thinking about it. I was thinking about the Sarantine Mosaic. I was thinking back on how much I loved these two books and what I wanted to say about them. Because I had something I knew I wanted to say, but I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure out what I wanted to say about these two books. And then it clicked. The Sarantine Mosaic is not only a love letter to art, but in the way it praises art as a medium, as something so integral to us as human beings, as all of us having a creative spirit, it, in that way, is able to criticize AI in its modern state. And you're probably thinking, how? And so I think I have like 4 or 5 different aspects to how this works. Now, I'm going to have to do spoilers. I thought about it, and I really, really wanted to do a spoiler-free section, but I just can't. I don't have enough content. I don't have enough ideas and words to be able to talk about this story without pulling from the events in the story. And so I do have to apologize. But if you haven't read the Sarantine Mosaic, I'm going to have to ask you to skedaddle, because this is a story worth reading. It is a story worth experiencing. It's only 2 books. It's a duology. And it is well worth your time, with one of the best climactic sequences I've ever read. It's just amazing. I highly recommend it. And if I haven't sold you on it, just from what I've been talking about already, I don't know what will sell you on it. Now, I'm going to give you a countdown. So leave if you haven't. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. We're going to get into spoilers. So the first thing I believe is so integral to the Sarantine Mosaic's critique of AI, or rather, appraisal of art, is emotion. Catharsis. I actually thought about the catharsis when I was going back and watching one of Philip Chase's old videos. And I remember him mentioning that the catharsis is such an important part of the reading experience. That idea of you go through this journey and then you get to feel this sense of relief, this release of tension at the very end of this story. And I feel like that's a very important aspect of art, you know? So what is art, and how do we achieve this catharsis? How does the artist and how does the reader achieve the catharsis? Because I think there are 2 different aspects. And aspects that AI cannot replicate. No matter how hard it tries, no matter how far it advances, unless we create something that is like a true artificial intelligence, and I mean it is sentient on its own, and it is its own existence, versus just seeping off the works of others and, like, replicating what it sees. How does catharsis come about? And I feel like this story conveys that. How? I find that the way it conveys, oh my god, Crispin and his journey of creating the mosaic in Sarantine. We see the trials and tribulations he has to go through. First, the political hurdle, then the actual hurdle. What does he want to accomplish? How can he accomplish it? Because he wanted to talk about some things that were very heretical to the religion of Jad. And how is he going to do that if there is this huge following of people who's going to just hound him and kill him if he puts it on there? So he has to sneak it in. He has to be subtle. It's a skill. How can AI art hide something with such subtlety? Yes, it can sneak things in there, but can it truly replicate the creativeness required to hide the centaur? Is that what it was? I can't remember. I think it was the centaur. The creature from the forest. How can it replicate that? How could it replicate something like that if it didn't even go through the journey? I think, first off, it's that idea of you pull from your memories. And I'm going to get back to that later. You, as the artist, pull from what you've experienced. AI is not pulling from experiences. It is pulling from knowledge. When a person experiences something, we experience catharsis at the process of the struggle. When you hear somebody who has gone through something painful, let's say, I'm going to use the example of going through the forest, or actually, even better, the girl whose name I cannot remember. Yes, I just tried to look at the back of these and try to find her name. The one who is enslaved and was going to be sacrificed, and how she... it was a very deeply traumatizing experience. You can hear that. Someone can tell you that they were about to be sacrificed and put on burned at a stake, but you don't know how it feels to be told you're going to be burnt at the stake. You don't know how it feels to be told that, hey, tomorrow you're going to be... I'd like censor every single word. Like, imagine I was just censoring 1,000 words right there. You know what it... ugly stuff. Every horrible thing that could happen to you is about to happen to you tomorrow. And it's not just the imaginary sense, like, oh, everything bad. Let's imagine everything bad that you can think of happening to you happens tomorrow. No. Everything bad that you can possibly think of happening to you will happen tomorrow, and we are going to be the ones to do it. Like, imagine that, and imagine having that put on a little girl. It's horrific. But then there's the journey of Crispin plotting to get her out, telling her, okay, I have a plan, and then actually getting her out, and then the journey of them escaping through the woods and getting out that way, and having to experience seeing that monstrosity that's within the woods, and all these different things that hide there. And then finally, we're free. We got out of the forest. That ability to take a breather now, after having been in such a tense situation for so long. Now you're gone. You're free. Maybe there's more ahead. but you just experienced a journey right there. That's a mini story right there. And how do you talk about that? How can you convey to someone that experience? How could that girl convey to someone how horrifying her position was? How could Crispin convey to someone the emotion of seeing that beautiful monster in the mist and the loss of that dear friend that was the bird, the raven, and of course the loss that the old man felt once I believe that was his former wife, had finally vanished from the world? How do you convey those emotions? How? Through art. It's one thing to tell someone, oh, I had these emotions. I felt sad, I felt bad, or I felt whatever. It's another thing to explain the process, to show it in the form of a book, to show that whole process, what's going on in their head, what's the ticking, how is the clock working, how are the gears turning in their head as to how they felt those emotions. Oh, AI can get that same idea across. Sure, it could. It could tell you that she felt bad. It could tell you that, oh, she felt horrid and she had to run away. But that's the surface level. It's the surface level that all of us can understand. All of us can comprehend that. Yeah, she had to run away. No duh. But can AI convince you? Can it tell you? Can it make you understand? Can it make you feel the emotion that is required to put your head into someone else's feet, to put your feet in someone else's shoes? I definitely butchered the saying there, but you get my point. It's that idea of, oh, I have to learn empathy, and this person, this artist, is teaching me the life, the way of life of this other person, this girl who's about to be murdered and have horrible things done to her. And then he's putting me into the feet of Crispin, who's this random guy, really, this wanderer, this stranger who wants to help. And I find that beautiful, because it puts us as the reader in a position that we have to empathize with, that we have to attempt to empathize with, and then it creates something for the artist to attempt. How can he convey what possible emotions these characters must be feeling? The conflict for Crispin. Oh, if I try to save her, I'm going to be putting myself in danger. But if I don't save her, she's going to have horrible things done to her, and I can't live with myself. And then there's a little girl who's trying to beg for help, who doesn't know whether she should beg for help from this random stranger if he'll just participate in the horrid things that's going to be done to her tomorrow. And he's able to convey that. But more than just that, how is Crispin able to convey that experience, the feeling of that rush as he's running through the forest and people are getting killed by his mistake, and now he's seeing this centaur. I really feel like it's a centaur, and if I'm wrong, I'm gonna feel like an idiot. But how does Crispin convey that? And more, how does Crispin convey the grief that he experienced from losing his entire family, from losing his wife, from losing his children? All those years ago, I think it was like 2 years back, before the events of this story. How does he convey that emotion? By going to Sarantine and then making a huge and beautiful mosaic. That is his art, as it was portrayed throughout this entire duology. His art is his mosaic. How can he convey the emotions of running away? How can he convey the awe that he felt while watching that huge beast before his eyes, and like I said earlier, that raven die, even though he cherished it? How can he convey that in this mural, all while not being heretical, not doing something that's horrible? And then this comes brought up, or that's viewed as horrible. And then it is compounded by the queen wanting dolphins. And dolphins are heretical. But then let's look at AI. Does AI have that experience? Does it have the ability to pull from those events that they have lived in? Does it have the ability to create subtlety in such a way that you have to know what you're looking for? Yes, I'm certain AI can replicate subtlety. But if it replicates subtlety, if Crispin replicated any sort of subtlety that was found anywhere else, he would have been caught like that. Because these are traditions, tried and true ideas. So what makes the artist so powerful? They can think outside the box. Outside the normal conventions, outside the normal traditions. AI does not have the capability to think and create. It does not have the creativity to craft that subtlety that Crispin must craft in order to sneak his wife and daughter in order to do all these things. And that brings me to the next point. Failure. AI does and is done. When AI makes something, it's done. It doesn't have the vision. When an artist creates something, they have a vision. It doesn't mean that they have beginning to end all plotted out neatly and so, but there is a vision there. There is a story they want to tell you. They had a vision of what they wanted to do. AI does not have that vision. You have that vision and you try to give it to AI. But the only one who can really convey that vision is you. It is the artist who had that epiphany, that idea. When Crispin goes to the mural, he knows what he's going to do. He plans it out. He plots the entire thing out. And he knows, this is what I'm doing. What if he had gone to an AI and said, okay, I have this idea, this idea, this idea, and that idea, put them all together? It's not how that works. Because AI can put them together. I'm sure it could. And it could do it in a decent way. But could it do it with the nuance that a human being requires? Because a human being requires the nuance to convey the emotions he's experienced, the memories he has with his wife and daughters that are now gone. How can he convey the joy and the sadness all in one? Can AI convey that? Can it truly convey that? Oh yeah, you can tell it, oh, you did this wrong and that wrong, so go fix it. But it will never live up to the image that Crispin has in his mind for what he wants to make. Piece by piece, he has to put it together. And if he puts a piece in the wrong spot, he's going to have to redo either a whole section, a whole segment of the mural, or of the mosaic. He's going to have to restart something. He's going to have to try again. when AI does something, it does it from beginning to end without worrying for any mistakes and never goes back. The beauty of a human is that we can go from beginning to end. We can start and finish, but then we go back and we look. Where did we go wrong? Or we can have something torn right out of our hands. When the mosaic in Sarantine is destroyed, he will never finish it. His masterpiece will never be complete. Crispin's masterpiece is gone. But he doesn't need it. Because the thing about the mosaic in Sarantine wasn't the end product. That wasn't the important aspect. He didn't, yeah, sure, he wanted to do it. Of course he did. He wanted to be going down in history. Who doesn't want to go down in history? That's a nice benefit. But the fact remained was that everything that was important about the Sarantine Mosaic was everything around the Sarantine Mosaic, was all the conditions in which Crispin was put in, the time limit he had of, I believe it was 6 months? I could be wrong about that. The resources he was given to create this thing, the different aspects that came in to push and pull, the queen telling him, I want dolphins, I want dolphins, I want dolphins. Him wanting to put in the Minotaur. I know I said centaur before. I don't remember the difference between a Minotaur and a centaur. I know I should remember. The aspects that come in, and then the way he wants to portray his wife and daughters, how he wants them to be in the mural. He wants them to be remembered, even if he is forgotten. He wants them to be in this mosaic that is remembered for all time, because he loves them that much. But it's destroyed. It goes away. Never to be recovered. He'll remember what it looked like. Other people who saw it and as it was being worked on will remember how it looked. But it will never be finished. And no one will ever really look at it. And so that comes to the ending. The ending of this book. The ending of this duology. And he's building a new mural. A new mosaic. I keep saying mural. It's not a mural. It's a mosaic. He's building a new mosaic. But this time, what is it of? It's not about the things that he was doing before. It's pointless. He's already conveyed those emotions to himself. He's processed through his grief. He's processed through the journey he went to reach Sarantine. Through the mosaic in Sarantine. He processed those emotions through the Sarantine Mosaic. So, what was his answer? How could he fix that? What would he do next? And that was simple. The events of Sarantine. What happened in Sarantine? What did he see? What did he do? What happened to the king and queen? What happened to the people he loved? The answer? He displays his love for them, for those events, for the people he met in a new mosaic. That is his tribute. It is his love letter to people. Can AI replicate that? Can AI make a love letter to the people that AI has loved? AI might be able to make some shoddy love letter. Maybe it can make a beautiful love letter to Martin Luther King Jr. And I'm not going to tell you that Martin Luther King Jr. wasn't an amazing man, because I guarantee you he was. I mean, that man was amazing. But what about Martin Luther King and his best friend? What about my best friend? What about your best friend? What about your parents? What about your husband or wife? What about your son or daughter? What about your child? How can you convey that? How can AI convey the love you have for such people? It cannot. And that is what the Sarantine Mosaic gets at. The art is a cherishment. It is a ceremony of sorts that is in honor of the things we love, the people we have loved, the people who made us. AI is a smorgasbord of hundreds of millions of different people. And in a way that's beautiful, but it is the product. It is a machine that creates en route. It does not comprehend or understand the emotions in those people. Can it convey can it convey the love 100 million people have for their best friends, for their mothers and fathers, for their sons and daughters, for their husbands and wives? No, it cannot. It cannot do that. Because it doesn't understand, it does not comprehend the love, the passion that goes into creating something like the Sarantine Mosaic. It does not comprehend the love that Crispin had for the queen, for his wife, for his daughters. It does not have daughters. It does not have sons. It does not have husbands or wives or mothers or fathers or a best friend. That's not what AI has. But Crispin has it. And Crispin pours it into his art. And that is what's so beautiful. That is what I find so gripping and captivating about this book, about this duology. It is impeccable because that is what art is meant to do, and it conveys that. This duology conveys the ability to process grief, pain, suffering, love. We need to process our love. And Crispin processes it through his art. And then he experiences new things while he's making that art. He's making the mosaic and Sarantine and experiencing life-changing, history-altering events. All the while making his art, and then his art fails. But there are lessons to be learned in that failure. So he tries again. He doesn't try the same thing again. He tries something new. He tries something different. AI is going to bash its head against the same wall unless you tell it to try something else. It does not have the creative thinking to find a problem and then try to go around it or find a creative solution to it. What it does is it tries to brute force its way through the problem or doesn't even really address the problem. Let's say you want to hide the centaur or minotaur, I don't remember what it was, and it's so upsetting. It's probably not even that. It's probably called something else. But it doesn't convey it properly. How could it? Because the subtlety is required. And could AI discover the subtlety? Could it find the nuance and how to hide it amongst thousands of different aspects of your art? All of it being a love letter to your people, to your family, to the people dead, to your grief, to the people who will come after, to the people you already love. It cannot do that. I'll make the bold claim, it cannot. That is why I believe the Sarantine Mosaic is so important nowadays. I think it's a beautiful and poignant criticism of AI in its own right. It does not exist to criticize AI. I believe I've seen works that do that, but this is such a love letter to art that it inherently criticizes AI. And that is what I love about this duology. I find that it has such a poignant message about the power of human creativity. It helps us process. When you're going through a breakup and you pick up a guitar or a piano or something, and you can process that through just playing your heart out. If you're going through grief at having lost a family member, you could process that through writing a story or drawing a painting. It doesn't have to be literal. I saw this painting once. I believe the artist's name was Alexa Lowe, and she had, I believe, panic attacks when she was young, and so she made this idea of her sitting down with monsters coming from behind to process her grief, her pain, and trauma. That is what artists do. They process their emotions. It doesn't have to be bad ones. It doesn't always have to be bad ones. It can be great ones. To process the love they have for their family, for the people who remain. That is what Crispin does, really. His first piece of art, the Sarantine Mosaic, is a love letter to the dead, to the things that have already passed. His second mosaic, at the finale, is a love letter to those who are alive, who are here now. It's ironic that the Sarantine Mosaic, the one that was in a love letter to the dead, got destroyed. It died. Except for in his heart, it's still alive. So, he takes those lessons. He takes that love and that memory of all those people. And then he forges it into this new piece of art, into this new mosaic. And this new mosaic is a love letter to those present. And that's why it will exist in the present. As he builds it piece by piece, it is still a love letter to the people he loves who are dead, but now to the memory they've left behind in the present. And that is what I believe is so poignant about this story. Because it does something that AI could never do. And AI could never replicate in any shape or form. Because this story also says you cannot replicate this unless it is the inherent power of humanity. Humanity's creativity is so powerful, so poignant, so intrinsic to our being that it cannot be replicated by AI. And I think that's all I have to say. So thank you all so much for watching and hearing me talk and ramble on about the Sarantine Mosaic. And I hope you all have an absolutely fantastic day. Tell me, do you agree with anything that I've said or disagree with anything I've said? Do you have anything to add? I'd love to hear it. I'd love to talk to you guys in the comments. And I will see you all next time.